Okay, we're going to trim directly on the wheel head today. And when we trim on the wheel head, you want your clay to be firm enough that if you put a little tiny bit of pressure on it, it does not flex and make an oval. But it's still soft enough that I could dig my fingernails in. So this is the perfect leather hard consistency. The reason we don't use a bat is because we're going to use the concentric circles on the wheel head. So I'm gonna flip the piece over. I'm gonna eyeball it as close as I can to the middle. Make sure I'm in control of my foot pedal. So the foot pedal is in the off position, but the power is on. And now I'm gonna hold my hands. So my left fingertips are gonna hold the center of my vessel. My left thumb is gonna hold my right hand. I'm gonna hold the needle like a pencil so I can draw a circle. Once I've drawn my circle, now I need to center the circle. Lefties, if you wanna do this process completely the other direction, you would change the direction of your wheel, hold your needle tool in your left hand, your right hand becomes your guide, and you work completely at 9 o'clock. So once I've got this circle drawn, I have to look for the skinny side. So I would say, this is my skinny edge. And when I'm looking at the distance from the line I've drawn to the edge of the vessel. And this is a smaller area. So I'm gonna shift slightly towards the skinny side. I'm gonna make my circle disappear with the back of my nail. And I'm gonna do it again. That circle is a lot closer, and that's pretty close to being in the middle. So once you have it centered, you're gonna use clay off the block, make it into 4 pieces. And I like to squeeze it in my hand so it becomes like a hot dog. I'm gonna hold the vessel in place as I connect because I don't want this to shift. So if you look, this clay has a slight gap between my vessel and the little wad of clay that I'm gonna use to connect it. I'm gonna use my fingertips, hold on to the bottom of the wheel head and press down. And by pressing down, it's going to slightly squish out the clay from the block to hold my vessel in place so it kisses my vessel. It has to touch it, but you don't want it to squish. I'm gonna switch my hands, do the same thing on the other side, hold the wheel head and press down with my thumb. And now I'm gonna do the other 2. I always hold the clay in place so that I don't shift it off center. Okay, so now that we are connected, you want a good amount of speed, but a little amount of pressure when you are trimming. The main things you will need for trimming are rasp to take care of any high points, trimming tools large and small if you like these ones, or you can just use this large black trimming tool. And then at the very end, you'll use a red rib to smooth over what you've done. So I'm gonna show you how to create a foot on this one as well. So I'm gonna hold the vessel, and by using this rasp, it's just gonna get rid of any of those high points. Kind of like it makes a blank slate for you. Okay, so now that I've gotten rid of all those high points, now we're gonna go ahead and start trimming. So if you want to use these trimming tools, I would suggest you hold them like a teardrop. So you want the small end up, and you want your index finger on the silver base, and you want the tool inside your hand, not like a pencil. Left hand is gonna hold on to my vessel. Left thumb is gonna hold on to my right hand. Good amount of speed, not a ton of pressure. And it's called a ribbon tool because it's removing a ribbon of clay. This is for all of the major stuff. And I would constantly stop to clean it off so that you can get rid of all of the stuff that's stuck. And then the top area as well. So you can see how I've already started to create my foot for myself. And then I can go and use this trimming tool. And whether you use the rounded side or the right angled side is personal preference. So I'm using the edge to carve in to give myself a foot. And you can either keep the foot out wider than your wall, or you can use this right angled side and come straight in to make your foot more narrow than your wall. Either is fine as long as you have a foot. Okay, so I would keep going with this. I'm gonna switch tools to show you how you can use this Mud Tools trimming tool. This one is really nice because it's got the curved side and the right angled side all in one tool, and every edge cuts. So if I want to get underneath this edge, I can really carve right underneath it. And again, I can show you how to pull in this foot. So now my foot is more narrow than my vessel. And it's personal preference, but you have to have a foot. It's totally acceptable to keep your entire foot flat, which I would prefer you do because it's much easier in the kiln for me. If you wanted to make a foot ring, you have to give me at least a finger's width, and then you can carve away the center. You only want to do this if your piece is pretty centered and you know you have enough space. And what I mean by space is you know that the foot of your vessel is thick enough that you're not going to carve through. So I can use my trimming tool to get right up into the edge. And you don't want to leave these lines exposed. So all of the grog of the clay is exposed right now. You absolutely can go back and add a texture, but you don't want the texture to be accidental. So by using this red rib tool, I can push all of the grit of the clay back in. It smooths out my clay. And then if I wanted to add a texture or some kind of a design that's carved, I can do it. My finger is also a great tool. So this is a trimmed foot. Now the only thing that I would need to do is sign the bottom of my vessel.